let's go back to the 500 button that I was on about on the mix buses. Now, what's really nice about this is we can actually take the last 8 modules in pairs and place them over the mix buses. So mix bus A, B, C and D, we have the masters here, and today we're injecting those B, C and D buses back into the main mix A. They do have their own independent outputs as well for tracking back,
right?
But as I say, today we're using it as sort of as a busing sort of system.
Right.
So my drums are coming into mix bus B and being fired into A, so they have their own independent sort of level here.
Oh, I see. So that's A.
Yep.
B, C, D.
Yep.
Right.
And B, C, D are firing into A today.
Right.
So we're routing those into the A bus here.
So anything that we've got inserted across each of those mix buses, say we've got some of those in,
Yep.
are being fired into our mix bus A, which is effectively our stereo master
mix bus, which is then running into the bus conf.
Yeah.
That's correct, yeah. Now, the 500 buttons that we see here, as I said, they steal in pairs. So mix bus A will take 9 and 10. Mix bus B would take 11 and 12. And if you hit play, like an AFL, the B bus, let's see what we've got going on. So that is no 500 series modules over that stereo bus.
Yep.
And as a pair, we've taken 11 and 12. And we're using those to process left and right over that drum bus.
Just give it a
bit more punch, and then sending that back into A. So you can drop that out now if you want. But it's just a clever way of mixing, really. And then all the mix buses have insert points as well, so secondary insert points. And as you see on the larger format SSL consoles, we have the sum button. It's worth noting that on an SSL, insert points are always sending. Okay, so we're always getting a send off of them. They only become active when we re-engage them as a return. What is nice about this is the sum button here, and essentially I can do inline parallels because the sum button takes the main feed and sums the return with it.
Nice.
So without having to take a secondary fader or something, I could press that insert sum button and put a compressor out here, have it feed back in.
Automatically.
You're parallel compressing automatically.
Cool.
So you can do that across all the buses. So you can have 4 compressors over separate buses, separate mixes. Quite clever.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
See that working for you in your setup?
Damn right. The scary thing is I'm already thinking about the hardware that I've forked out for recently that I'm thinking, right, even if you didn't want to necessarily tie yourself to having your EQ and your compressor in a chain, you could have your EQ on B, your stereo compressor on C, your limiter on D, and either route through them or parallel to them.
Or parallel to them, exactly, that's it.
Cool, nice.
And again, as I said, we'll come back to it, but you can always have this stuff on the patch bay. It's, well, we'll take a shot of this in a bit, but the D-subs on the back of it, there's a whole number of D-subs, so pretty much everything you could possibly want comes up on a D-sub on the back of this. I believe there's about 29 D-subs, remembering off the top of my head, so it's quite a serious amount of I/O on the back of the console.
Now, at this point, I'm going to just stress one thing. The console is X pounds. Allow at least $5,000 for cabling. And don't scrimp on the cabling. Do not do it. Do not think you can buy your cables from Tandy. It does not work. Does Tandy even exist anymore?
I don't know.
Well, we haven't.
There we go.
If they don't exist, then we haven't slated them.
We haven't slated them. There we go. It's okay. But no, so there's a serious amount of cabling going into this, but don't be afraid of it because it can run solely. When we go out to trade shows, we take it out with our Alpha Link, a little box on the laptop, and we go into the sort of mic inputs padded down.
3D subs.
Exactly. That's it. And
Good
because all of the 500 modules, remember, can be linked to the channels, like we're doing today, and then we have the secondary insert points if we need to.
Now, is that if you don't have the patch bay, which obviously we have an Uber patch bay down here, it's a hardwired thing? It's something, a physical jumper inside, or
no? It's on the back panel. So essentially think of the 500 series button insert point as an insert point. Right. Pretend this isn't strapped to the console. So essentially, the 500 we have a 500 send to module in, module out to 500 return, but it's all linked on the back with little DB link cables on the back. So it can be wired to the console, or it can be placed on the patch bay.
So it's not if you bought it in one way and you decided later you wanted it a different way. It's not a case of getting in here and tweaking anything.
No. That's it. It's all on the back panel, and we can do a little shot of that in a bit. So that's no problems. So yeah, we have all the mix buses. The only difference on the mix A bus, obviously, is we have the master fader. We have the comp button, which drops in our bus compressor.
And why would you not want to use that?
Exactly. Coming across to monitoring. We have our full monitoring section here, and we essentially have 3 sets of monitors, so mains, mini 1s, mini 2s, and we have a sub output. and it intelligently remembers. We've got bass management built in with a crossover at 80 Hertz,
Right.
and the console will remember
If
the sub is turned on or not, and it would turn that in and out. So that again is a feature that you see taken from our larger format consoles such as AWS, and we can also calibrate the monitors in 0.5 of a decibel increments to the main monitors as well, all inside of the actual monitoring section.
Cool.
So again, it's sort of those pro level features you see in the large consoles. Monitor sources, we have obviously our Mix A, which is what we're monitoring off today. iJack, which is a mini jack on your front panel here, so if you've got your mates who want to show you their tracks in the studio, you don't have to fumble around the back of the console.
Yeah, I like that.
External inputs as well, and these can also be summed together if you want to as well,
Very cool.
so for monitoring purposes. Fallback ALB can be brought into the front panel headphones here as well if you've got someone in the studio. As we said, you've got your master levels here, DIM, AFL, monitor levels. The MON button on the foldbacks is actually a really useful feature. If I've got a guitarist set up in the studio and he's playing along in his right ear, he might have his guitar quite loud because he's playing to that and click loud in the other track, the other ear. He might, after playing, want to hear it in context with the mix like we are in the studio. I don't want to go fiddling around in case he wants to do another take, so I can just fire, by pressing that button there, our mix into his monitors.
Very cool.
So little things like that, workflow features.
That's very handy. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yep. So obviously the two talkback circuits, as we said, and then the famed SSL listen mic compressor, and that comes up on the patch bay as well, so we can record that back. And here at SSL, outside in the hallway, when we were testing this thing, we had drum kit set up, door open, mic in the stairwell, listen mic compressor slammed over it, and hey ho, the 80s.
Yes, welcome to 1983.
So there we go, yeah. So that's all built into the console as well.
Cool.
And really, the best way to think of this is as a hub, an analog hub for bringing all of your 500 series processing together in one place with the SSL Super Analog platform, so the super clean, open, wide sounding sort of circuitry that we know of the large format consoles, but with the ability to add that colour back in and really mix and essentially get that analog push that everyone loves. Cool. So that's the best way to think of it.
Awesome. Let's do it. Let's try it.
Yeah, let's play some things. Yeah, so if you hit some audio through.
Here we go.
Cool. So a couple of things like we said earlier on. I'm AFLing the drum bus at the moment. So we've taken 11 and 12 in pair. So we can sweep through, add those highs to that drum left and right, and get that low in as well.
Yeah.
And if we drop those out, you can hear that before massively. We're using the black button in on the series EQs here today, and best way to think of it, black and brown knob EQs, the black is slightly more aggressive of the two, slightly more pushed, which is why I like them, because like I said, rock and roll.
EQ doesn't need to be subtle.
It doesn't need to, not this sort of stuff, I don't think, no. So you can see we're pushing into the mix buses here, we're driving that today, so we can just drop that back slightly. Bus compressor, we're sitting around sort of 4 decibels of compression, just hovering there, using that as the glue, and we can compare that in and out. And you can hear just those highs pull in slightly, which is the effect we're going for, with just that rounding.
Fattens up the bottom end.
Exactly. There's Peter.
If you hadn't guessed what the track was, then it just...
Oh, we fell in at the chorus as well, perfect timing, there we go. Let's take a look at some of the VHD, for example, across the bass. So if I don't kick the desk over, which is always a good start. So we've got the VHD padded down. So we're running line level into the mic circuits, but we're using this as a coloration tool. So we can really start to drive that, and we can go from second order, which is more like a valve.
And there's your grip.
There's your grip from the transistor. So you can see, just hear it on those highs, they start to push and
it's a variation between.
Feel free to play with yourself, you can blend between the two. And if you really want to go to the extreme, we trim that back.
And really juice it up then.
We can really go to the extreme as well with it.
Sorry, Tony.
Sorry, there we go,
That's... loving that.
So, as I say, we can keep this clean recording clean, or even with, especially on drums, I find pushing them kick slightly more on the transistor side. You get that nice push off of the beta head. But we're using this as a coloration tool today on the mix process, remember. So all of these can be used across the mix process. And these modules can be bought in the 500 series as well, and they're exactly the same circuit, but it's just in a 500 series
So if
module
you wanted
as well.
to have 16, effectively the mic pre circuit on your second day, you could do.
Yep, and all you have to do is you have them in the rack here, hardwired on, and you press the 500 button to bring it into the the path here. So another thing with stealing these modules is we can actually do final mix bus processing as well. So if we wanted to, we could have a complete chain. So I might have some compressors on my external inserts, then bring these 500 modules across. And again, without stealing and hijacking. Before and after. So if we had, for example, a compressor on our external insert points there as well, we could have a complete chain for doing our final mix bus processing as well, which would be a really nice sort of way of working.
And it could be that you would use the same thing on the way in. You're just effectively going, right, well, it's now not my tracking EQ, it's my mastering EQ,
That's
or
exactly
it's my mixing EQ.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's worth noting as well that we have thought about this little fella here. It's a little iPad stand. If you've got your transport control, I know there's an app. Pro Tools have released now, haven't they?
The Pro Tools control.
That's it.
The Slate have got one for.
That's it. So if you've got your transport up here, you can use that for your control surfaces. It would just lie against your modules there as well.
Sweet. That's little things.
Just little things
that make a big difference.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. But I mean, in terms of the functionality of the desk, I think that's pretty much everything. Obviously, we've got the Qs in here today, but we do a range of everything from the E-Series dynamics. We do the VHD mic pre. We obviously have the bus compressor, the new bus compressor, which has the high pass filter into the key of the side chain, and the latest one, as I said, was the LMC Plus, actually, which is the new listen mic compressor, and we've got some really cool things in that. So it's the LMC circuit, as we love and know, but we've got some filters that can be placed into the side chain, and we've got a wet-dry blend for parallel compression in there. We've also got a couple of things like the split and the scoop button.
Right.
The scoop button, essentially, it phase inverts the wet signal and allows you to add it back in with the wet-dry blend.
Nice, yeah.
And the split button is essentially a band selective compressor, so we can use the filters to define a band. They get taken out of the dry signal, compressed with the listen mic compressor, and then added back in with the wet and dry.
Sweet.
So we can do some really cool things with that as well.
Very cool. Well, this is the first of a few things that we're going to be doing with SSL. I checked my iLock account, and a whole load of lovely plugins have appeared, so they'll be getting reviewed very shortly. But this thing, the only thing I could suggest is try it. As someone who's worked in the box now for many years, and that's nearly a swear word in this place, I've been playing with this thing for half an hour or so.
Yeah.
And I'm there. I'm down with it. I'm happy. I could track with this thing tomorrow afternoon.
I mean,
in fact, I'm going to try and get it out the building without anybody noticing.
I mean, the best thing to think of it is it's walk-in, work-on solution, which is the way I try to put it to people. Is in whether it be education facilities, whether it be in smaller studios, if you've got guys coming in that haven't touched the console before, it's a straight-up analog console. They don't have to spend an hour learning digital menus for routing or anything like that.
Because it goes from there to there.
That's exactly it. You can trace your signal flow in the matter of moments, and it's literally you just sit down in front of it, you choose where your audio wants to go, mix buses, direct outputs, it's going to my converters, it's going to my mix buses. It's as simple as that. It's just a straight-up analog console, 24/8 analog console. Cool.
Well, Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Real pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I say we'll be working with these guys a bit more very soon. But for now, I've been James from Production Expert here at SSL.
Thank you very much.